What's up YouTube? Widget Designer here with another blueprint tutorial. It's been a while. So in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how you can prototype a very basic UI and how you can create a progress bar that affects a other attribute, such as in this case I'm updating the points as if this was a game mode or something. But you can also have a progress bar update to open the door, or many different examples. But just trying to do the basic premise here using a capture pad actor that I made, that when I step on it, it will increment the progress bar, and the progress bar hits 100%, it'll add to the points. And this is kind of hacky, and I'll explain why later, but hopefully the ideas I talk about will be helpful for you to apply in different scenarios where you might need a progress bar and a basic UI to prototype something in your projects. So let me show you how it works, and then we'll get started and build it from scratch. So here we go. I'm going to step on this capture pad. My progress bar is increasing. And I have 1 point. So very simple, and hopefully the ideas I'll present can be helpful for you to create something like this, or something else in your game projects that requires interaction with the player, a progress bar, and a third entity, such as a score, or when you have your progress bar at 100%, a door opens or something like that. Anyways, I'm rambling. Let's get started and build this blueprint. So for the sake of this tutorial, I'm using the third-person template, but you can also make this in the first-person template as well. And before I begin, I'm going to make 2 notes. One is we're going to be jumping between a lot of different blueprints, so if you get lost, feel free to pause and go back and see what I'm doing. And second, I am going to be doing some hacky stuff with the third-person character. In most cases, you probably want to do these things inside of a game mode or an actor, but for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to be hijacking the third-person character. If this is a real project, you could probably get a coder's help to put things in the right place, but I'm just sharing the ideas of how you can prototype something very quickly. Again, it's not meant to be shipping blueprint stuff. It's just more to prototype something very quickly to show an idea, or get something working in a level. So let's begin properly this time. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to our content browser, and I've already made a folder, but we're going to right click, new folder, and when you make a new folder, just call it HUD. I already have mine here. And in our HUD folder, or heads up display, we're going to go to user interface, blueprint widget, and we're going to call this on screen UI. And you double click it, and it will open the UI editor. And in here, the dotted lines are kind of your screen space that you have to use. So I'm going to just move this over because I don't need this. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some text. So we can click text box, drag it in. Oh, we don't need text box, sorry. Text block. And we can line it up where we want it. And to edit it, on the right side panel here is where we can edit our text. So it says text block. Let's call this points. And we can click on it again. We can change the color, we can change the font, the shadows, all fun things like that. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to make it a bit bigger. And that is hiding under font, size, let's say 45. And make sure it fits in our bounds, like so. And then let's add another text object. And let's type in the word text block, we'll type 0. And we'll also set this to a size of 45. And we'll line it up. And let's hit compile, save. And let's minimize this. Minimize the content browser. Now we're going to click on our third person character here. Click Control B. It'll bring us a third person. And double click it to go to the blueprint. Now this is where I said things get hacky. I'm going to be referencing the third person blueprint because you need to do things called casting, and casting is kind of a coding concept which I'm not very familiar with myself, but basically, if I understand it correctly, like if the object is in view or something like that, you can cast one function from the next function, and if it's not done properly, the editor doesn't like it. So the third person is loaded, and it'll be easy to put functions in here that we can call back later in our blueprints. So leave all this alone, and just off to the side, be up here, we're going to add stuff to our blueprint. So right click and search begin, event begin play. From here we're going to go out and we're going to search for create widget. And in the create widget, we need to, where it says class, is where we're going to put our UI that we just made. So let's minimize this, put it off to the side, go to our content browser, go to HUD, on-screen UI, just select it, and we'll go back to our blueprint. And where it says select class, just do use asset from browser selection. And that should say on-screen UI. And then we're going to do add to viewport. Now see, when I started create this, it gave me an error because we don't have a return value. So we do that, and done. Save, minimize, minimize. And if we play, we should just see our little UI on screen. And there it is. Doesn't do anything, but we're going to get to that. So let's go back to our UI and click on the text block that you had wrote 0. On the right side, it says text. The text to display, you enter the text. There's a button called bind. Click on bind. Create binding. Now this will create a function of that text block. So here, in this function where it says get text, we're going to modify a few things here. I'm going to break this blueprint. Move this off to the side. And this is where we need the third person blueprint to come into play. So we're going to, from get text, we're going to do cast to third person character blueprint. The object of who it is actually owned by. Get player get owner. Yep. Owner is self. But right now we don't have a function to actually edit the number 0 to a score. So we're going to leave this here, jump back to third person blueprint, and we're going to make a custom event. Add custom event. We'll call this I'm going to call this set points. And then on the left side, we're going to add a new variable. Make it a integer. And we'll call this variable points. Select it out, and we'll just set points. And we'll drag out a pin. We'll get points. and we'll do some math here, basically saying plus int plus int. So we're going to add by 1 to the current value. So basically this custom event is saying when we run this custom event set points, it's going to set the points based on what the point is. Getting the points is 0 plus 1 set. So it'll be 1, 2, 3 every time we call it. Just compile, save, jump back to our UI, and then here we have get text, cache third person character, the owner is self, and we'll drag a pin out and we'll do set points. So call function set points. We're not going to call the function, sorry, there's a mistake. We're not going to do the set function. We're actually going to do, as third person character, we're going to do get points. And then we're going to go to, let me step back a little bit because I need that return node. Sorry for the mistake here. So we're going to do, again, get points. Get points goes to return value. So basically it'll take the integer to a text, and that's that. So that's our get points function. And this is coming from the on-screen UI. So basically we clicked on this guy, this text block, bind it, it made a function called getText0, and in getText0 we are talking to our third person blueprint to hopefully later on adjust the 0 to 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. To compile, save, there's an error. So the mistake was we need to, actually from the object out, we need to get player, not controller, but character. Compile, save, that's done. So now we do actually have some way of incrementing the points when we do something. So we're going to minimize this. We're going to go to our content, starter content, blueprints. We're going to make a new blueprint. We're going to make a blueprint class. You're going to make an actor. We're calling this capture point. And like I said, you don't have to make a capture point, but for the sake of the tutorial, it's a good way to explain the idea. So double click on that. We're going to add a component. We're going to add a cylinder. And I'm just going to squish this down. Make the scale, let's say 0.1. 0.05. Right, that's probably good. Or even 0.025. Okay, and our x will be 5, y will be 5, and let's slap a basic material on this guy. So back to our content browser, starter content, materials, wood is fine, and then we need to add a component, collision, sphere collision. Okay, that's good. So we need some way to detect that we're on it. That's why I need the sphere collision. Compile, save, and then in the event graph, we're going to delete of the capture point. We're going to delete all this stuff here. And we're going to go to select our sphere, and then right click, add event for sphere, collision, on overlap. So basically when we overlap sphere, we're going to do something. What are we going to do? We're going to, on overlap, we're going to do, so here's the thing, we need to know when we're inside the sphere and we're not, so we need to figure out, is anyone inside of it, meaning our third person character is inside of it. So to do that, we need to first, type in switch has authority, and from the authority, we're going to do get actors of all class, and then we're going to go from the other actor of our overlap connected to actor class, and then we're going to go to on out actors. We're going to do get a copy, and then we're going to go to our cast to third person character, and the get is the object, and we're going to do a delay of, let's say, 1 second, and then as third person character we're going to call back our function of set points, and when the delay is finished we'll run the function. Compile, save, and let's jump back to our scene and see what happens when we step on our actor. But before we do that, we have to actually add the actor to the scene. So let's go back to our blueprint folder, and put this guy in the scene. Save, play from here. Points of 0, points of 1, 2, 3. But now here's the thing, I kept jumping in and out to make it increment. If I'm standing inside of it, it's not doing anything because the on overlap is only works once, so I have to overlap it each time to make the points increment. If I'm standing inside of it, there's no overlap event. So we're going to fix that later, but that's one thing to note, is overlap events only work once. So if you want them to work more than one time, we have to do other functions inside the overlap, which we'll get to. So far so good. Now let's add that progress bar next.